what's your strategy at the moment? Do you guys have like a goal and know where you're going?
Yes. It's a bit loose though,
Yep.
but we spent like the past couple weeks just I've got this Word document, it's like 20, 30 pages long. I had to make a contents for it because it was too many pages. Basically, with just all our plans to do with branding, merch ideas, like all the singles that we want to release, what we want to do after we get like our next planned singles out. So a lot of planning involved. But yeah, it's not so set in stone. Like I want to put due dates on everything pretty much, almost like assignments, but we're still like roughing out all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, the main goals is just to keep growing the way we have been. Um, One of our main goals last year was to get 2,000 like followers on Instagram. We managed to smash that, which I'm pretty happy with. Um, what else is there? We know we want to release a song within the next like quarter, I'd say.
Yep.
And we know what song it is. We've got an idea for the artwork. We haven't commissioned it yet. Um, but yeah, moving forwards, we'll see what happens.
Sick,
Yeah.
sick, sick. So, did you guys? Because I think strategy is something that artists don't speak about enough. We don't talk about
Mm.
like I don't know. You probably see it. People just kind of think that if they just play the music, people will come,
Mm.
and that's not really what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people rely way too much on just luck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So at what point did you realize that, like two questions really. At
Mm.
what point did you realize, okay, the music industry, it's not just luck. I've actually got to work hard and in a certain direction to do it.
Mm.
And then not only that, so and then what did you guys do to combat that?
Yeah. I feel like I'm pretty fortunate in always sort of knowing. I think it's just like getting off your ass and actioning it. Like that's the hard part. Um, so I was lucky to find two guys that are pretty much just as driven as I was with my music, to the point where like I remember hearing their demos when they first showed me. I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. Like that sounds proper. You guys,
What specifically about the demos made you feel that way?
just how professional they were. They sounded like release ready songs. Um, and they didn't even consider them release ready, but they already knew how they were going to make them release ready, and that just inspires a lot of confidence as well. You're
Yep.
like, yeah, okay, cool. You guys know what you're doing.
Yes, sick.
Yeah, for sure. Um, there
So
was
you had a high standard that you were looking for in and because you
yeah,
didn't have, did you have bands at the time when you found East Capri?
I did. I was
Yeah.
in two other bands.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for anything.
Yeah.
Like Andy actually, or Eden, the singer from East Capri, he actually met me at the gym. Um, like I was halfway through like a set of like pull-ups or something. And then when I was done, he came over and was just like, "Hey, bro, do you happen to be a guitarist?" And I was just like, "Yeah." It's like, "Yeah, well, our band's actually looking for a guitarist, man. Like, do you want to check out the demos and maybe like if you're keen, blah 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 blah." And like I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, I'll check out the demos." I didn't really expect it to be anything. I was gonna kind of be like, "Oh yeah, sounds like demos, but I'm all good." But yeah, when I heard them, I was like, "Oh, what? How are you guys looking for a guitarist? Like, this is stupid." So I got really lucky, I think, just running into him at the right time.
Did he recognize you, or you were just wearing a band t-shirt and had long hair?
Well, actually, he describes it like, "Oh yeah, I've seen you a couple times at the gym, um, and I knew from your long hair and that like undercut that you've got going on, I knew that you were either a guitarist, absolute shredder, or you're a stripper." And then like it was like the second or third time he saw me and I was wearing like a Trivium shirt and he was like, "Yeah, he's a guitarist." Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So I got lucky because I wore the Trivium shirt that day, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been at it like ever since. And yeah, those demos were awesome and they still have that same high quality of standard. And it makes me want to work harder as well. Like I feel like I want to keep doing stuff. Whereas when you're in the band where you're the head and everyone else is kind of just like people you've recruited, you've got to be really driven. You're like you've already got to have a very solid plan, I think, for yourself. But when it's a
Absolutely.
group of people, it's a lot easier to stay motivated and stay driven.
Yeah. Is there a specific person that's a leader in that group?
Um, the boys would say no. I'd say it's Jackson. He does a lot of work.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like decision making and stuff, we do try and keep it democratic. We have very recently, like as in the past like month or so, talked about having like directors for like subtopics. So like the director of a certain like sales plan or
Yep.
something like that to make like the final calls. Um, that's something I think would be a good idea just for proficiency. And since we all trust each other, I don't think that would go wrong. Especially since it's not like we're cut off for having things to say or anything. Like if we do passionately disagree with something, we could just still be like, no, that's stupid. But for the most part, I think that would just make decision making a lot more smooth. Um, so yeah, when it comes to band leader, I would say Jackson. He puts the most work in internally, I would say. We all do our part for sure, but Jackson actually has like a skill set that lets him do a bit more.
Yeah, so would you say it's more of like a vision and a direction that he has?
No, see, so when it comes to vision and direction, I think Andy and Jackson are at the forefront for sure. Um, and it almost always kind of has been how I've been saying. Like Andy's got a good eye for no, Eden has a good eye for like design and like costumes, outfits, and that sort of thing. To the point where other bands have actually got him to do styling for them. Where Jackson's got a good eye for like things like Photoshop. He's a really good video editor. To the point where he's got his own business in that now. So what was the question?
Yeah. So in terms of like leadership,
Yeah,
right?
leadership.
Was the leadership, is that from like the person at the front? Do you see them
Mm.
as they just have the strongest vision of where the band's going?
Yes, not particularly,
Yep.
but I think it would depend band to band. Like at the moment, we're all kind of like at the forefront, whereas when I joined, it was definitely more Andy and Jackson, of course. Um, and then yeah, I think the leadership almost comes from someone to take it upon themselves. Um, and it's almost more of a requirement if the band is struggling to push forwards, I would say.
How do you guys go? Do you guys go through cycles of like being super motivated,
Mm.
not being as motivated?
I think everyone does.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, you're not always going to be motivated, so you just got to do work anyway.
Discipline, right?
Yeah, for
Discipline
sure.
beats motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're relying on motivation for everything, I would never do anything really.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like I get motivated not very often, and when I do feel motivated, it's usually when I can't do that thing.
Yeah.
So it's more just like for me, I try and plan everything out in a calendar, like even stupid stuff like reply to comments on Instagram. Like I make that a task that I have to do. Otherwise, I'll just forget and put it off forever on accident. Not because I don't want to reply, but just because I'll get distracted and do something else instead. Um, so yeah, it does just come down to discipline, just doing things not mindlessly, but like because it's something you know you have to do,
Yeah.
as opposed to like waiting for that feeling to strike.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And so I just want to go back to strategy for a second. So
Mm.
you've recorded a bunch of tunes. You have like what's your goal? Do you have a goal in mind of where you guys want to be or what
Mm.
you want to be doing? And what's your plan to get there?
So we want to play a festival, like hopefully this year, like a bigger festival. We've played a couple in the past. Um, our plan would be first and foremost get a drummer. At the moment, we don't have a drummer. We're sort of looking. We've asked a couple drummers. A couple have said they're keen. We do have someone that's keen to play drums, like in the meantime, while we're looking for like a permanent drummer. Um, so that's a good first step that we've kind of only just accomplished like the past couple weeks as well. Um, the next couple things would be just we're looking at different like booking agents and stuff that can get us some more gigs. And we've just been talking to other guys in our scene, sort of seeing what they're doing, asking bands like days like these, and Headwreck and stuff like, yeah, how do you guys go about getting gigs and stuff? Just seeing what they do, just learning from everywhere we can. That way we can play that festival spot. Um, Other goals like releasing songs, it's just down to strategic planning from us, which is stuff like when are we going to have like a deadline for uploading to distributors and what playlists are we going to sort of pitch all our songs to and stuff like that. All the boring stuff that's behind the scenes that I think a lot of bands that we look up to don't ever talk about because they didn't even really need to because they had a label and they did all that stuff like delegated to someone else because they could afford it and stuff.
By bands you look up to, do you mean like current bands that are doing well, or like bands like 5-10 years ago?
I'd say
You
like
look up.
5-10 years
Yeah.
ago, like the bands that were like when we were younger.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
yeah, like,
The bands that we kind of looked up to and went, the bands that inspired us to be musicians.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. It's like
Yeah.
you'd never like. I don't remember in high school Metallica ever talking about, yeah, like we had to look for a distributor for the song. We didn't know which one's the right pick. Like that was never a question.
Yeah, or talking about have their social media strategy.
Yeah, for sure. They didn't have a target of Instagram reels they had to hit.
Yeah.
That was never a question.
Yeah. So are you guys getting into that whole we need to do XYZ on social media is it part of your strategy to get your music out?
It is. It is. For our last song, we had to. We didn't have to, but what we did was we planned 4 weeks of content, pretty
Yep.
much, like one post per day. Sometimes had a couple more posts on a day, of what we were going to do in relation to the song, and we had to pretty much film and edit, take pictures and all that stuff before the song was out. That way, we could just post it on a day-to-day basis, because otherwise, people just don't see the song.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were talking about like people just don't see stuff.
Mm.
Like, again, it's one of those things that like this podcast, you were like, oh, they're full versions out. I've been posting on social media that you can listen to it on Spotify and YouTube. And, you're someone, we message each other, our stuff's going to be at the top of the feed and we still don't see it.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to spam the shit out of it for people to actually see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even people that are following it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You just don't see things.
Mm,
Yeah.
for sure. And like, even if someone sees the same thing a couple times, I think that's always a big resistance for people. It's like, oh no, I'm just going to annoy people if I keep posting it. But it's like, probably not. Like, social media is pretty crowded.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Even if they see it a couple times, they'll just scroll past, and they'll be, if anything, that's a good thing. Because I know for me, when I'm scrolling through and I see someone's released a song,
Yep.
I can't always listen to it then and there, or I don't even want to listen to it then and there. But when I see it the second or third time, I'll be like, oh shit, that's right, song.
Yeah.
And then I'll finally listen to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You need to get it smashed. The couple things I think of when we talk about that is the exposure 7 times. People need to see something 7 times before they actually take action. Have you heard that before?
No.
No, it's a marketing thing. So what marketing companies focus on is they need to give you 7 hits of something before you will actually take action, which is why it's so important to double down on that.
For sure.
The other thing I think of is I'm pretty sure might have been, do you know who Stephen Bartlett is?
No.
Do you listen to any like business podcasts at all?
I can't say I do, no.
Yeah, cool. I've definitely fused the two.
Yeah.
And there was one, he was talking about, I think it was Stephen Bartlett. He was talking about how Henry Ford, they had this marketing campaign they were going to do, and it was like set up in the office. And Henry Ford kept walking past, was walking past for a couple of weeks, and he was like, oh, when are we going to change the ad campaign? This one's boring me. And the marketing team were like, that hasn't even been out to the public yet. Like, we haven't even put it out yet.
Yeah.
Like, it's, we so quickly, like, think, we can so quickly get over our own material, because that's why he used that analogy. It's like people on Instagram, they go, oh, well, I've already said twice on Instagram, check my song out. Am I going to piss people off?
For sure.
It's like, no, you're
Absolutely not.
You're not.
Yeah. And that's a discussion we've had in the band multiple times. We've been like, we always have that resistance. Even now, like, if we have a couple things posted, even with this knowledge that I know we have to do it, and with the intention of doing it still, I'm still like, oh, but
yeah,
but that's annoying though.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? What?
I don't know. Projection.
Yeah,
You're getting bullied as a young child. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could come from anywhere.
I guess we're scared we're gonna piss people off and they're gonna lose followers because we're telling them about our band.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta break it down. It's kind of like, unfollow us then.
Yeah.
If it's gonna piss you off, unfollow me.
For sure. I feel like someone that likes your music
followed you for a reason.
Yeah, they won't be pissed off when they hear your song a couple of times. Projection as well. I think people that scroll might get annoyed by something they see a lot that they find annoying.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, what if we look like that? And it's like, just having those comparisons are probably pretty harmful in general anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think there's so many different things. So what do you have a social media strategy at the moment?
Strategy, not so much. It's more just like post when as often as we can. We sort of try and diversify what we post a little bit,
Yeah.
just so it is a bit more random, a bit more like varied. Um, because otherwise, like if you're scrolling through someone's feed, this is less for like popping up. It does look a bit like stale if it is just the same post over and over again.
Definitely.
To the point where that could almost be classed as spam.
Yeah.
But if you vary it up a little bit, still the same like idea behind each post, like promoting the most recent song, pretty much. Like this is for a release, like promoting the most recent song. We'll do stuff like have performance videos or like why you should listen to the song or like some sort of BTS or something like that. But we all keep the sort of like the goal of each individual post the same, like, or at least try and narrow down what that goal is. And for the most part, it's like, drive people to this song. Like that's the idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so have you, apart from like driving people to the song, have you put any other thought into what type of social media content you should be making?
Oh, yeah. Like we have.
Yeah.
There's some ideas that we're still like hesitant to do because but that's like should we do that? It's like at what point have you just sold your soul to social media?
Well, that's the hard part as an artist, right?
Yeah.
And again, that's the part that makes us go, fuck, surely Metallica, you used Metallica before. Metallica wouldn't have had to make that decision of
No.
what lame thing are we gonna put on social media?
For sure.
So it becomes like I've had a few ideas, and we've been spending ages on this as a band because we were like, man, it's a blessing and a curse. It is an opportunity for us to take our marketing into our own hands, but we're at the mercy of it being in our own hands.
Yeah, for sure.
And not being like back in the day, your label would have employed a marketing company that would have made sure everything that's going out is smick and looks great.
Yeah.
And now we're at the mercy of our ability and our skill set to make something look good.
For sure. And you don't even know what's going to pop off.
Yeah.
That's another reason why we randomize the sort of content we do, because we don't know what's going to, like, people are going to see.
Yeah.
Like, what people are going to, like, share to other people for whatever reason. I know in the last cycle that we did, our most popular ad was just, like, us talking about, like, if you like bands like Linkin Park and Bring Me the Horizon, and that was the most popular one. And we put, like, a little bit of effort. It took us a night, but, like, it wasn't really that much.
So you ran that as an ad?
Yeah, we ran it as an ad, and that was the most popular one.
Yeah, and it worked. What were you doing in terms of, like, were you just pushing people to Spotify, or what was your?
Pretty much, like we were just sitting on a couch like this.
Yep.
All three of us
Naked.
Naked. Mostly naked anyway. And we were talking like, if you like bands like this and this, check out our band pretty much. And that was just the video. And people really liked that for some reason. And we tried that with some other songs and it didn't work as well. So it almost does feel just kind of random a little bit.
Yeah. There's one thing I'm diving deeper into like social media because I'm not just doing it for myself anymore. I'm helping Stevie, my partner. She's focusing on an online fitness business as well. Same deal, right? A lot of it is you're either running ads, you're doing cold outreach to people that you know. Oh, you've done this before too, haven't you? Are you still PT?
No, not anymore.
Okay, cool.
But I'm familiar with the process. Yeah.
Were you running Facebook ads or anything when you were doing that?
No, but I was like just posting everywhere I could.
Yeah. Cool. Because Facebook ads super similar to making organic content is what I've realized, right? Is you need a hook and then there's a call to action and blah blah blah. What I've found, we were trying so long to like try and make music advertising like that. And I kind of realized that you're not really selling, because we're not selling a product at the end of the day. Yeah. And that's what had made it so hard for me to follow the standard laws, because I know a lot about sales and marketing, and a lot of the standard laws for that just weren't applying at all for music. At least in that domain of where you're just trying to turn people into fans. We're not trying to convert them into buying like a CD or anything like that. We're literally just trying to get them to like us as people. And I've found the easiest way to do that is to make sure that you're doing two things, which is creating credibility. So finding like your music would be your credibility in this instance. So how good are your songs? And then number two, it's like, what are your values as a band? And does that align with people that are looking at you on social media?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important.
That's like, I'd kind of nailed it down into those two things, because if you're not doing those things, if you're just trying to like make a video and it's an ad and you're trying to push people to your music, but it's like, check out my song.
Yeah.
But you're like playing the song. Let's say you left out the, we sound like blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
The reason why that works in that instance, if you run it through my framework, is you're saying these are our values because these are the bands that we like. Instantly, people can know what to expect and not even know what your music is going to sound like, but they're going to make a decision as who you are as a person.
For sure.
Because you like Linkin Park, I like Linkin Park.
Yeah.
I think we have the similar mindset.
We get along.
We get along.
I'll
Yeah,
check out
yeah.
your song. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that does have a lot to do with it.
That's got so much to do with it. So I think more than anything, saying, hey, we like this band, this band, this band, the biggest thing it's doing is it's building rapport with your audience.
Yeah, for sure.
So yes, it's making your audience feel like we are the same type of person. And my assumption is that's why that video probably popped off.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah. And one of the things I've been trying to do a lot when it comes to social media is working out, cool, how do I make sure I follow the social media norm, which is have a hook at the start of the video, something that will catch people, and then making sure you're delivering on that hook and giving people value.
Yeah.
But then it's like, all we have to do is to create a strong brand is we've got to create credibility and we've got to show what our values are.
Yeah.
And if we do those two things, that should make good content.
For sure. Yeah.
Is my current theory.
No, for sure. To add on to that,
Yeah.
like when we were like analyzing what videos of ours do the best, it is the ones where we're talking, like more so than showing music.
Yeah.
And in big red underlined on this Word document I was talking about earlier, I've got like talk more to the camera under like the social media ideas. Like no matter what it is, just on the very top, it's just talk more at the camera, pretty much. Not even at the camera, to the camera, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And because people love that. People, especially on social media, prefer that a lot of the time.
Yeah, they do.
Some people will just like hear a song and be like, oh yeah, that's sick. But I think a lot of people will just be like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
Scroll.
Well, I don't think I finished with where I was going before as well, is it's like, we're not selling a product. We are, the way we need to market is the same way a social media would, social influencer needs to market.
Yes.
Because we're not selling on social media, we're not selling a product the same way. Like if like Stevie is, she's selling, buy my program. It's like we've got nothing to sell.
For sure.
we've got to make people true fans of who we are.
Yeah.
And look at us on social media and be like, man, I get this guy. Oh, and his music's sick too.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about like the PT analogy, it's like there's a very clear problem that Stevie has the solution to. It's like music, I guess you could sort of be like, hey, your depression's fixed now, but like not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really have that problem that you're solving the same way a product does. Yeah.
Exactly. And for so long I was like, what problem? Like I will have the secret to music marketing as soon as I work out what the problem is that we're trying to solve. But then I realized we're not really. Like it's just not a thing. But what we it's a different strategy, is you've got to make people feel like if they were sitting right here in this room, that they would be joining in on this conversation and having fun and actually adding value.
Yeah.
Like they're like, man, I'd love to hang out in that room with those two guys.
For sure.
Naked, and that would be fun.
Those naked guys.
Yeah.
I wish I was naked with them.
Yeah.
I think that a lot. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. So, does that, thinking about your strategy at the moment, does that align with what you kind of had in mind already, or does it help kind of, does it change anything, or does it strengthen anything, or yeah?
I mean, honestly, that does align. Checks out for sure. That's almost to the point where I'm surprised I didn't mention it myself. Like it is basically being an influencer, unfortunately. Like I wouldn't, like that term sucks. I kind of hate that term, influencer. But I guess you are a person of influence as well if you're trying to do this sort of thing.
That's it.
But yeah, it is just relating to your audience, almost like, yeah, you can see it in YouTube, like YouTube celebrities for younger kids are more popular than TV celebrities. Like, and it's because that's a person that they almost can relate to. It's like, yeah, I watch this person play Minecraft and Fortnite every day. They're my friend almost, which can get parasocial, I guess, which could be kind of dangerous. But I think it is just that relatability, just like having an audience that feels like you're their homie, that sort of thing.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
it's the most important thing.
Mm.
So, which again, it's the thing I think some people fuck up sometimes is they're too afraid to be genuine
For
on
sure.
camera as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So people can't connect with that because they're not like what social media does is it amplifies everything.
Mhm.
So back at school, if you were genuinely yourself, there were going to be people that didn't like you,
Yeah.
and there were going to be people that you became friends with.
Mhm.
But if you were that person that was never really themselves, you probably would have never found a friend circle
Probably, yeah.
at school, right?
Mm.
And I think the same thing applies on social media.
Mm.
The thing people are really scared of is that if you have 100 people saying this is shit, you've probably also got like 100, 200 people that are going, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
The thing is, a lot of the time, those people don't. Like sometimes it's the negative voices that we at least hear the loudest, for sure. Have you guys experienced that?
Honestly, I kind of love the negative
Yeah.
Like, I find them so funny.
Yeah. Have you guys been getting it?
A little bit,
Yeah.
not as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
Weirdly to say, but like we do get a lot of negative comments. Actually, the other day, Jackson was telling me about someone he talked to, and he was saying that this guy and his previous band used to talk shit about us, and the guy that Jackson was talking to hated that about them, and they're not a band anymore. But yeah, he was saying that like, yeah, they used to talk shit about us, and like whenever whenever East Capri came up in conversation, they'd mock us and stuff. And Jackson told me, I was like, really? Like almost like giddy. I was like, dude, that's such a good reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like to me it was hilarious. But I could see why people would hate that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, people are talking shit. Like that's mean, you know?
People do it out of what's called poppy syndrome too, right? If someone is in a band and they see you guys release a single, it's doing well, a lot of the time they're just going to try and tear you down in front of other people.
Oh, for
a
sure.
lot of the time, yeah.
Yeah. It's like it's a lot easier to tear someone down than it is to be like give someone praise.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're trying to like, I find that people that are trying to relate to each other, they'll quickly jump to what they hate more, than as opposed to like what they like. Like they'll be like, oh, the weather's fucking shit, isn't it? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like I think it's that just amplified, and it sucks because other people are involved when it is in this scenario.
Yeah, it's easy to be negative.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's hilarious. But I do think it's a good point you're making that people are scared to be genuine.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know anyone that's like would be comfortable that is comfortable like getting in front of the camera and being genuine off the offset anyway. So it's almost like another skill you have to sort of.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to learn to do it, and then you've got to make the decision to, like, if I were to say something kind of crazy right now, there'd be like to not go back and go, oh, do we edit that out? Blah, blah, blah. Like to have that, I'm going to say an opinion. Jamal will say, I hate bands that do X, Y, Z. And then to go, you know what? I stand by that because I actually mean that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put that out. And those bands that do that thing might see that and they might go, oh, I don't agree with that. But that's perfect. Like it's your
fine.
opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And a reasonable person's not going to hate you because of an opinion anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the best part is people that agree with you are going to think you're a fucking legend.
Yeah, for sure.
And
they're going to be like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, Jamal, so you're like the Pauline Hanson of the music industry.
Yeah, but like literally.
Yeah. And you ever see those billboards? I always found it so funny. Have you driven to like north? Have you driven north at all?
I mean, I have.
You have? Have you driven to like Rockhampton? Or yeah?
Yeah,
Yeah?
that actually a couple like 1 or 2
Have
weeks
you ever
ago.
seen a Pauline Hanson billboard?
I haven't actually
That
somehow.
that's so funny. There's this one that used to be on the way to like Rockhampton or something,
Hmm.
and it was just a photo of Pauline Hanson, and it was like, not afraid to say the things that you're thinking.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
billboard, right?
that's funny.
But as we were just having this conversation, I was like, that's it.
Mm.
That's the same reason the cattle farmer in the middle of Queensland sees Pauline Hanson say something racist and goes,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's just spooking her mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then suddenly it's just got this massive like it does, it works.
Mm.
Obviously we don't have to say stupid shit. We just have to say what we truly believe in.
For sure.
And if we say what we truly believe in, there's going to be people like the cattle farmer out in the middle of Queensland that goes,
Mm.
yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely. I mean, people will gravitate towards genuineness, I think. Like, people can almost sense it. It's almost like another sense that we don't know we have. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
I know for me, it's just like I can tell when someone's putting on a bit of an act. I like just like not speaking their mind, almost like they've got a gun to the head sort of thing.
Mm,
It's like it comes across and it feels a bit weird, bit robotic. But when someone being genuine, it's like relatable, even if you don't know it. It's like a subconscious thing.
absolutely.
So it
Yeah.
is important for sure.
Do you think the old way of doing music is dead?
I don't think it's dead. I just think there's so many people doing music that it's unreliable. So to say it's dead isn't necessarily the truth. There's still bands that just play well and then happen to get lucky, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have any examples of anyone that's done that recently?
like in recent times,
Anyone you can think of?
not really, to be honest. I just like I think what the new way is putting yourself up for those lucky opportunities more often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it's capitalizing on those lucky opportunities. So I guess it depends on what your definition of the old way is as well. But someone that just plays a bunch of gigs all the time across the world, I think they could still make it that way. But I just think they're putting themselves at a massive disadvantage by not utilizing all the different
Yeah,
tools we've
it's
got.
just a big tool, right?
Yeah.
And then, so in your scene that you follow,
Mm.
right? Because I know a lot of the scenes are different. Do you feel like Australia has a market for your music here?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the alternative scene in general is sort of making a little bit of a comeback, to be honest. Like there's definitely a demand for it with like every time one of those big festivals fails, another two come back and sort of take its place. Um, we see it with like Good Things at Knotfest. Like they're still doing extremely well. And even if they decide not to do it again, like Download might pop up again. I think the Vans tour is going again on the US or something like that. Which is crazy to me because that got discontinued like a decade ago. Um, so I think in general, yeah, people do need this. I think just the alternative scene as well. It's sort of an outlet for like for people that are a bit more of like the underdog, for people that aren't necessarily in the mainstream, like people that need more voice, like their voice to be heard a little more. Um, I think there will always be that need. So
Yeah.
I think our kind of music is definitely in that, like sort of like not the cry for help necessarily, but I guess it is. I guess like that cry for help sort of genre, um, people are always going to be searching for.
Yeah. And so you don't feel like that scene is shrinking in Brisbane, for example?
Shrinking? No, I don't think so. I think if anything, it's growing while people are getting more used to different things, especially with this new generation of just people in general. They're just more open and accepting of everything. Um, I think if anything, it's growing from there. I know for my music as well, it's like I'll show it to someone that's not necessarily into it, and even if they don't love the music, they'll be like, oh yeah, I get it. I get why someone would love this. And I think that's enough for it to continue growing, because after hearing it 20 times, they might be like, actually, this is awesome.
Sick. And so would you guys bother trying to do like if you were to play shows in Australia, where would
Mm.
you try and play?
So capital cities are kind of an obvious choice to me, just because that's where people are able to get to, even if they're from like rural areas, like traveling to essential areas, sort of the norm for them to see a show. Um, but honestly, that's not something I put too much thought into. That's
Yeah.
just
So you guys have been going more so, how do we build a following on the internet more so than in
yeah,
person?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think we've been using the internet a bit more than going to live shows and stuff.
I think
We haven't
it's,
even played a live show in the past like year or so, I think.
yeah, because
Um,
I came 20 gigs,
mm.
which again probably would have been before you played a show with us.
Yeah, that would have been a
Yeah,
couple years ago. Yeah,
like 2022, maybe. I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe.
I
No,
think,
probably actually 22
yeah,
or 23, early 23.
yeah. I think it might have been just before you played with us or
Mm.
just after you played. I can't remember, but I remember there was a Black Bear Lodge.
Mm.
Came to
Yeah, I
watch the
remember the
show.
gig. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was before I played with you guys. Yeah.
yeah. There you go. Crazy. And that was in how long ago was that?
I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Cool. So, was that a conscious decision of let's not play any shows, or like what happened there?
A little bit. We definitely had a talk about like we shouldn't be just playing any show that we get offered. We should make the shows we do play a bit more impactful. Because I've seen it happen before where bands will play every other week and it just gets boring. It's just people will stop showing up slowly, like one person by one person. Even the most loyal of fans will be like, "Oh, I'll see them
I
next
saw that
month."
exact same set 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we did have that conscious thought like, no, we need to make more like impactful gigs.
That's a great point too, because they do. You go, oh well, they're playing this small venue tomorrow night, or they're also playing
Yeah.
like that bigger venue with that other band that I've wanted to see for ages. I'm going to skip that show and that show and just go see that show.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think even if people don't think they're getting bored of it, they're not going to show up to every single one. So yeah, you're better off making those shows that you want to play more impactful. But another thing was that the drummer that we had been getting for our shows moved to Sydney. Like this was after we made that decision to play more impactful shows, so it didn't really impact us too much, especially as we moved more into promoting on social media and stuff. So it kind of was good timing. But that did line up to the point where like the past 6 months we were like, okay, now we need to start looking for a drummer again because we do want to start playing shows again. But yeah, I'd say it was more of a conscious decision than just not playing gigs.
Yeah, we did the same thing.
Mm.
And I think it's just because I kind of feel, I asked you the question before, but I do feel like the old school strategy, at least in Australia, for that exact reason you just mentioned, is it's really hard to build momentum when you've only got 3 capital cities, really.
For sure, that's a good point.
You've only got 3 capital cities, and you can burn your audience out really quickly with that. Without like, traveling overseas basically. And then you're looking at, we were talking about the US dollar before.
Yeah.
You try to go to America. It's like, oh yeah, it looks cheap to start with. But then it's $100 a day, 150. When I went over to America recently, we spent $8,000 in 2 weeks just on food.
I'm not surprised. That's messed up.
Yeah, 2 people, 2 weeks, $8,000 food.
Yeah.
And that was just like, we went to one nice restaurant, one fancy restaurant, and that was probably $500-600 for like something you get at a normal restaurant here in Brisbane, like an average fancy restaurant.
Yeah.
And the rest was just like counter food or like hardly any sit down restaurants. $8,000.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's messed up. And
so that's really hard.
especially if you're trying to be, when you're a smaller band, you're not even making profit from your music. That's all out of pocket.
Yeah. Exactly. You're losing money playing the shows. Like, I think the internet is such again, it's just how good that we can communicate with people on the other side of the world without having to do that.
For sure.
But how the fuck do we use this tool properly?
Yeah, for sure. And I just know from experience as well that seeing a band or playing for an audience, people will get converted like right there and then. Like, because I mean, that's kind of what all of this is for. It's like an advertisement for that performance.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, I know that it's so effective to play that music, but it doesn't translate as well on social media. So it's like you do have to learn what the hell, what do you even say, what do you even post on social media,
Yeah.
because you can't just play the song unless you're like Tosin Abasi, like Animals as Leaders, sort of level 20 sort of guitarist. Yeah, you, yeah, it's definitely a different sort of mindset you have to get into
Absolutely.
for sure. It's really annoying,
Yeah.
to be honest.
And so, what were the biggest? Is there anything specifically that you've learnt over the last year or two that if you had the same way that you're going up to other artists and asking, looking at them, going, "What are you doing? How can we copy you?" Let's say younger Jamal from 2 or 3 years ago came up to you. What would you tell him?
What would I tell him? Like in regards to
He's looking at your band and going, "I want to be where East Capri is in 6 months. What do I do?"
Hit the gym.
Get jacked.
Yeah, get jacked. And yeah, everything else comes. No, what would I tell him? I'd say just to focus on consistency and habits more than any one particular thing. So I think being able to be diverse in the field, which is including like playing the actual instrument, organizing gigs, doing social media, being diverse in all these different skill sets that you have to acquire, putting in like a little bit of time each week into all of those skill sets, probably more important than playing guitar for 48 hours straight, not playing guitar for 2 weeks, and then playing again for 48 hours straight, which I was doing 4 or 5 years ago. Not very effective strategy, and it really just puts you in like a one-trick pony sort of situation where you have to relearn all this stuff a bit faster than you'd want to. Whereas if you paced it out over weeks and weeks, I think it would be a lot easier to get to that point. I think that's the only point I could make to him.
I love it.
I feel like I'm still learning.
Yeah. So what are the habits? If they just want to be where you are, what habits would you suggest they be doing?
Well, I mean, playing guitar is great, but putting it all into one chunk is not very good for just your life, because everything else will fall behind. So fragmenting that across weeks would be good. Getting the hang of social media, like actually paying attention to what the scene is doing, as opposed to just mindlessly scrolling through. I think that's a really important thing, to the point where like even taking notes on what they're doing and why you find it effective, to me is super important. Something I've been doing recently and has given me like a much better understanding of why I like certain things and why I would stay away from certain things. So in terms of social media, I think that's an important thing. And in terms of just like getting on top of like band discussions, being a bit more proactive in management of different avenues of the band, instead of playing a passive role, I think that's important too. So recently we've been doing like sort of band discussions every 1 or 2 weeks, that are like set in stone, just so we can keep the ball rolling at all times. And even when we don't feel like it initially, once we get it started, that feeling sort of goes away anyway. And it does keep us productive and it does keep us on track. They would be the main things in terms of just like being in a band. We made the joke about the gym before, but that is pretty important, just because it is one of those things that like, okay, 45 minutes on every Monday, I'm going to go do this thing. It's the exact same principle on everything else you do, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an input. I've heard you talk about this before, but you were mentioning how going to the gym was helping you with singing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So what, apart from that, like how much of your, and it probably helps a lot with your mindset, but how much just going to the gym every day is helping with your music career?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of my discipline sort of developed from that period where I started going to the gym a lot. So just getting that groundwork of like, it doesn't matter if you feel like going to the gym or not, just rock up. And if you need to half-ass it, but just rock up, that mentality of just doing it, even if you don't feel like it, that's going to translate to music in general. I do remember when I was talking to you about going to the gym, it was a bit more literal. Like I remember like my diaphragm control was getting better because I was able to lift heavier weights with better core control. And I was able to just sing for longer because my cardio was getting better. So it was a bit more literal when I was
Yeah,
talking about it.
better muscle control.
Yeah, but I think for mind, just for mind state, just getting into the habit of having little wins that you can always check off every week. So that's another important thing, actually, sort of like side tangent, but like just setting smaller goals that you can almost guarantee to tick off. It will make it feel like you got the ball rolling, which will get the ball rolling. So in my case, yeah, just going to the gym, like at that point, it was almost every day, but it was an amount of time that I could manage, and I worked at a gym, so it was super easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting that ball rolling. And I know after I go to the gym as well, once you've got all that dopamine rushing through your head, you want to do more as well. Like you might feel more physically exhausted, but mentally, like I'm so much more awake and I'm so much more ready to do things. So I think that's how gym has like benefited me in terms of music for sure.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
sick.
discipline physically, mentally, like literally every way.
Yeah, I feel like the gym too is really good if you can get around the whole mindset of going to the gym, right? Because you go to the gym, you put in 45 minutes of work, you leave the gym, you look exactly the same as how you started.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You do that for a month. You haven't changed too much. Mine again, your brain, because you've been disciplined, you're probably going to be feeling a lot better.
For sure.
If you look in the mirror, 4 weeks later, you're probably, no, unless you were like severely overweight and you've lost a whole heap of water weight or something like that, even 4 weeks later, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to be like, still
Yeah,
kind of look the same,
for sure.
but you feel better. And for some reason, the gym, we just trust the process so much more. The theory of going to the gym, we just believe it's going to work. We have so much confidence in that we're 2 months in and we're only seeing a tiny change, but we believe it enough that we go, I'm just going to keep going. I just know that if I just keep doing this, I will be I will lose X amount of weight.
Yeah.
I know that if I just keep doing this, my body will eventually look like that.
Absolutely.
And we give it blind faith. And a lot of people don't give that same blind faith to so many other things in their life.
To anything, really.
Yeah.
I think the only comparable thing in musicianship is playing the instrument. And sometimes people don't even realize that they're like practicing, even if they're just like playing every day. But like that's like you're practicing every day, essentially.
Yeah.
It might not be focused practice or effective practice, but it is still playing every day. And that's why you're as good as you are now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so in terms of music, I can see people relating it to that. But in terms of every other avenue, people just like, nah, like I just wasn't built to talk to people, for example. I just wasn't meant to go to bed early. I wasn't meant for social media. These are all skills that you should be treating the same way as the gym, but people don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't give it that same blind faith that I want to be at the gym. You just go, I want to look like that guy. So I know that if I just go to the gym every day, I'll get there. And that's most people agree, like can make that connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but when it comes to social media, I agree that not as many people can go, oh, well, yeah, but that's because they're that, or that's because they're that.
For
like
sure.
you still hear that with people's bodies and fitness and stuff.
For sure.
But there is a much, much, much bigger population that goes, no. I know that if I put the work in, I'll achieve that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think so. Probably because it's glorified.
Yeah.
To the point where it is unrealistic again. Like people will think that they can achieve things in the gym that they can't.
It actually goes, it goes too far, right?
Yeah, for sure.
People start taking gear, women start getting implants and stuff. Sure. A lot of it is starts to get faked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, we see that in music as well. Every time I see a talented musician, like on the second watch, you can almost see that it's faked. Like
on social media.
Yeah, on social media.
Yeah.
So I guess it does go both ways for music as well.
I think social media is meant to be faked though, in that regard. Yeah. Like I think it's super, super rare that you see clips online on social media that aren't mimed.
I think it comes down again to being genuine.
Yeah.
Like if you're not pretending that like this is a live performance, if you're just like doing it, people will be like, yeah, whatever, they're just doing it.
Yeah.
But if you're like just a clip of you in your bed, you make the camera look shitty intentional,
Yeah.
but it's like a pre-recorded guitar play
Yeah.
that you're like, look, guys, I can play this for real. And that's when people are like, oh, dude, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, it's a genuineness. Yeah.
yeah,
But I think people have this mindset that if it doesn't sound, because the issue is to make it live, it's going to normally lose a certain percentage of quality.
yeah, it
And
has to, I think.
yeah, yeah. So I think the idea is to make it, you want to make it look and sound as good as possible without losing the genuineness.
Yeah, for
I guess
sure.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that comes down to just not lying.
Yeah,
At that
exactly.
point, really. Just like just taking on the nose, like, yeah, that is a mime. Like if someone was to point it out, like that's obviously faked. Which I think we have gotten comments on before.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even reply. I was just like yeah, sure.
Yeah,
like
it's
I know
of course it is. Of course it.
Yeah.
You really think that we were like
Like
fucking-
playing in the street somewhere in like Northgate.
Yeah, we're rehearsing in the street and someone walked past with a camera and started filming us in 4K.
Yeah, yeah. But a guitar's not even plugged in. Like,
Yeah, of course it's fake.
It is played, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious.
yeah,
Like,
literally. But yeah, no, it is just genuineness, I think. I guess that invokes the next question. It's just like, it's still got to be interesting. You can be the most genuine person in the world, but you could just be kind of boring.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
might be a fear for some people.
Yeah.
Which maybe it should be. Not necessarily a fear, but something I think of.
Yeah. I think everyone's got their little niche though. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing. You've got to be able to I think everyone's got something that makes them interesting.
Absolutely. It's more about that person finding it for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've just got to, again, have care enough to try and find that thing.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too many people, same with gym, same with music, will instantly go into that defeatist, like, no, I wasn't meant to do that. Like, social media is not for me. I can't do that. I'll look at all these people that do it really well. I'm nothing like them. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
When in reality, a lot of these people that do it really well had to practice from the start anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you train at the moment? What do you do?
How do we train? We just do it, like with the social media stuff.
Oh, no, at the gym.
Oh, at the gym. At the moment, I'm just doing like full body, like 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah. You just go to a Good Life still or?
Yeah, just Good Life.
Yeah.
So if I'm going 3 times a week, it'll just be full body 3 times.
Yeah.
If I'm going 4 times that week, I'll go upper, lower, upper, lower.
Yeah.
Just lets me get the most out of like a bit of a smaller time frame. I was going like 5 times a week, but just don't really have that time anymore. So instead, I just worked out a way to make it so I can go less, still get some benefits, but spend time doing more music and stuff, because I was kind of neglecting that a little bit because of going to the gym and doing other things.
Yeah. So what's your balance look like at the moment? Like how much time do you actually get to spend on music?
Not enough, I would say, but I do make it at least 2 or 3 times a week, the same as gym, where I'm doing stuff. Those time periods I'm doing those things though is a lot longer. So at the gym, I'm only spending like 45 to 60 minutes. Whereas with music, it will be maybe like 3 hours per session if I can. So it is about just like being like, this is why I do everything in a calendar as well, like including just like monotonous stuff like take clothes offline. Like I'll put it in the calendar just to make sure when I get those 3 hours to do the music that it's truly free.
Yeah.
So I can like really focus in. Because otherwise I find like I couldn't do it even if I had like the day free. It wasn't really, because there was a bunch of stuff in my subconscious that I knew I had to do, or didn't know I had to do even, like take the clothes off the line. I just didn't have it written down. I didn't have it in my mind, but it wasn't allowing me to focus regardless.
Do you find it's more? Do you find it's easier to get distracted while you're doing music? When you so I've got allocated time for music.
Yeah.
Are you less like committed to that time compared to, let's say you had 3 hours, 4 hours at work, for example? Do you feel like you allow yourself to cheat on that time more than you would on something else?
No, I don't find that personally.
That's good.
I kind of lock in. Like sometimes it might be a bit harder to get into initially.
Yeah.
Like that first 30 to 60 minutes, I could be all over the place. But once I've found the groove, it's like I'm dialed. Like
You got the discipline to lock in.
yeah, I don't even know if it's discipline for me. It's just like it's almost to the point where like I'll forget to drink and eat and breathe because I'm like so like focused in.
Yep.
But for me, it works, and especially if I've planned around that, like knowing that I'm gonna just do nothing but music for 3 hours. I mean, to me, that's essential. Like not having anything else on, being able to really lock in.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get distracted. I'm sure you've had times where that happens.
For
And then
sure.
3 hours goes past and you're like, fuck!
Yeah,
I literally played for 5 minutes in that 3 hours.
for
How did that
sure.
happen?
It also depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
For some reason, I find practicing a lot easier than writing. Like writing, I will get a lot more distracted, and I will get a lot more harder to focus in. Um, I think it's just finding that thing that's like makes you want to keep on going. In my case, it's harder with writing, even though I do love writing when I get into that state.
Absolutely.
But with practice, it's probably because it is similar to having everything sort of written out. When I'm practicing, I already know what I'm gonna do. Whereas writing's a bit more like, what am I gonna do? And it makes it a lot harder to.
It does. Creativity. That's why I love the cabin, because the whole point of the cabin, go away, no phones, and it's eliminating the distractions.
For sure.
Because I do find, for some reason, especially with writing, it's people call it creator's block, but I don't believe it's creator's block. I believe it's just your threshold for distraction seems to lower when you're doing something really hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it gets harder. So the desire to, oh, well, actually, I might just reply to those Instagram comments.
Yeah.
It's like that task that I put off all the time is easier than this hard mountain of creating a new song.
For sure.
So I'm going to do the thing that I was putting off. I'm going to do that instead.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
easier to do that.
For sure. And that's actually something I have to do. Like
Yeah.
I have to like banish my phone basically. Like that's nowhere near me. I still find myself like opening like Google and going straight to Instagram,
Yeah.
like out of habit. And it's like, what? I don't even like it. What am I doing here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just removing all those possibilities the best you can.
It is, because it's so
essential.
easy to like accidentally fall and trip and into a doom scroll.
Absolutely, yeah. Like embarrassingly easy.
Yeah.
I find it all the time these days that I'm like, someone will message me on Instagram. I'll open Instagram to reply to them, and I'm doom scrolling.
Yeah.
I don't even reply to them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, how am I here?
Yeah. How did I get here?
Yeah, for sure. And it
so
takes
easy.
someone like actually like walking behind me or something to snap me out. I'm like, oh shit, I'm meant to be doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, someone walks in the room, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like, I was just scrolling, bro.
For sure. No, I mean, related to that, and like why I think something like the cabin works for you guys is just like people don't have enough time to sort of just like be with nothingness as well. And I think just all those thoughts are sort of almost like congested in your mind. You don't give yourself time to fucking let them out.
Absolutely.
Just being by yourself with your bandmates in the cabin, you've got time to think about those things. And then you've also got time to think about the things you want to. I think I don't even think it, I genuinely believe that's a big part of people's insomnia as well. They don't give themselves time to think during the day. So as soon as they go to bed, that's when it just all floods through. Because they're always listening to music, they're always on their phone, they're always working, doing something.
There's always a distraction.
Yeah, there's always
just
distractions.
process. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, for sure. So I genuinely believe that, yeah, a lot of people, they just don't give them, and I think that's why shower thoughts are such a big thing. Like people have the best thoughts they ever have on the toilet or in the shower. It's because they don't have their phone with them sometimes.
Yeah.
And like they don't have their phone with them in the shower sometimes. And that's when they're like, some people don't even do that.
Yeah.
But that's the only time they actually give themselves time to think about stupid shit. And they're like, oh, actually, yeah, that's a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You're just stuck there with your own mind. And that scares so many people.
It does. And I get it. Like, but I think accepting the fact that the thoughts are going to happen and facing them is going to be a lot better.
Yeah. Well, it's very clearly it's a disruptor to creativity, right? We've got this incredible creation machine, and we just don't allow it to do its thing a lot of the time because we're too busy shoving things into it instead of letting it flow out.
For sure. Yeah. An analogy I've heard actually regarding this was like thousands of years ago, people weren't you know, always active at their jobs. It was something like, say they were knitting a fishing net is the analogy I heard. This was actually on YouTube, someone named Dr. K. He does like psychology for like video gamers and stuff. And he was saying that, yeah, just like knitting a fishing net, that's something that's sort of monotonous that gives you time to think. They didn't have distractions around them besides like, oh, a bird flew past or something. They were just knitting their fishing net, processing all their emotions, processing all their things that went through the day. And then when it came to nighttime, they could go to sleep. Whereas today, it's stuff like notifications always popping off in your corner. You've got your boss skulking around, like you've got to keep an eye on. You've got people in your band trying to message you, and you've got like things that you know you have to do when you get home. So many distractions that you don't have time to think about because you're at work typing away. They didn't have that. They were able to get those emotions and thoughts processed. So they were able to sleep better. They were able to be more creative when they needed to be. And yeah, that's something I've subscribed to ever since I heard that. I was like, yeah, that's super important.
Sick. So what are you doing
So
to make that happen?
well, actively when I do my chores, I don't listen to anything anymore.
Yep.
It used to always be a podcast, or it used to always be music. These days, it's nothing. I just do the chore, and that does give me time to think about things, and that does help when I try and be creative. When it means I can actually get into it instead of having that time to be like, oh shit, I've got to be panicked about something because my boss said something 2 days ago, and you know, like
You had that time to do that while you were doing the dishes.
yeah,
Instead,
I already got it over and done with. And there's a lot of thoughts that you don't want to think about, but getting them out of the way optionally avoids getting them out of the way when you don't want them to.
How interesting. That's really cool. So you're just giving yourself more opportunity to process your emotions and your thoughts.
For sure.
And doing it in time that when you don't really want to be doing that.
Yeah. Like it just beats doing it like when you're trying to sleep or when you're trying to be creative. It means that like whatever, I'll just have my thoughts when I'm doing the dishes, and then I'll get onto my life. I get to go back, I get to resume instead of being almost like always held back by having thoughts.
Great point. Yeah, sick. What else you got for me? That's awesome.
Yeah.
You got any more mindset hacks?
That's been a big one for me. And I actually have noticed a difference. I know for me, I've had like massive insomnia my whole life. But last year I slept almost every night. There's only like a handful of times that I just couldn't sleep through the night. Whereas years prior, it would almost be like a massive achievement when it's like, I went this month and I slept every night, which is a weird thing to say.
Weird. Were you like a big gamer, or were you doing things that were known to induce insomnia?
So there's a few things I could narrow it down to, but the main thing I think was just having too many thoughts when I did go to bed. So the first thing I found was like, because I got medicated for ADHD, and that helped a lot because I was doing more things through the day. Like I was able to do some of the stuff that I wanted to do, which even though when I went to bed, my thoughts weren't always, well, they were almost never, oh, I didn't do this, oh, I didn't do that. Like they were never actual active thoughts. But when I didn't have that in my subconscious, because I did it through the day, my thoughts did relax at nighttime. So that was a big thing. Just being able to get those wins probably just gets you in a better mood in general.
Yeah. So when you were younger, you were obviously a lot more distracted throughout the day, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
Which stopped you from being able to, like, how young are we talking?
My whole life.
Your whole life, yeah. True.
Yeah.
Like even when you were a little kid, your parents would put you to sleep.
Yeah,
like 8, 9.
Yeah, they'd put me to bed and I'd just like lie awake,
Just
literally for hours and hours. Like I don't remember not having sleeping problems.
Yeah, crazy.
But yeah, like recently, because I only heard about this analogy with the fishing net last year or the year before, like relatively recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've found that has helped a fair bit as well. Just giving yourself time to think about things.
Insane.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool.
Hasn't solved the issue, but it's an amalgamation of things that will help.
Yeah,
for sure.
That plus something else you'll learn sometime this year.
Yeah, for sure. There's
definitely.
A whole bunch of things like exercising did help. Like being more disciplined did help because, like I said before, just I did more things through the day. Giving myself time to think. Being more disciplined with your bedtime regime is a big one as well. Just actually having good sleep hygiene, they call it, where the first hour and a half before you go to bed, which should be the same time every night, you actually do pretty much the same thing, which invokes sleepiness in you. So like avoiding blue lights, avoiding things that are too mentally engaging, just all that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
scrolling.
Yeah, scrolling. Yeah,
Mm.
my phone has disappeared by like 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
8 or 9 o'clock. Just because even if it's just talking to my friends, that can be too engaging.
It's stimulating, yeah.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
super. You start problem solving because a lot of the time, when someone's messaging you, you've got to solve that problem, or they're trying to help you solve one of your problems.
For sure. Even if it's not something major, even if it's something just like, hey, when are you free?
Yeah, it's
That's
like,
still a
oh
problem you're
fuck,
solving.
oh shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to work that out
for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, no, just get rid of your phone when you go to bed. If you want to sleep, that's a big one for sure.
Yeah, sick. And then, so back to you. So instead of talking about East Capri and the band, what's been your biggest, what's been your biggest hurdles as a musician?
Biggest hurdles. A big one is probably like an imposter syndrome. I've always had a quite low opinion on my playing and just myself in general. So whenever people expected something of me, I would put myself in a sort of like, just like I'd put myself under a lot of pressure, which is quite self-centered, really. Like that's kind of egotistical in a way, but it always puts a lot of pressure on myself whenever someone is expecting something. Even when you guys asked me to fill in for those gigs, it's just like, fuck, I'm following up after like Lucas and Eric, two guitarists that I genuinely look up to because they're fucking amazing. I'm like, no. like initially I'm just like, no, I don't want to. Like that's what I'm saying in my head, but I say yes anyway because I just kind of know I should. Even if I didn't think I could for whatever reason, like I should give it a shot at the very least. And obviously it worked out fine.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big one for me. Just it's that sort of imposter syndrome. And people relate imposter syndrome a lot to major things, like being a leader in a big corporation where you've just like scummed the fucking application or whatever. You've made it all up. People always relate it to that. But for me, it's always the smaller things as well. Just like, no, I'm not worthy of playing guitar for you guys, That's a big thing for me, and just getting over that. Trying to relax yourself of any pressure that you have and just doing you. Like reminding yourself that like, oh no, people wouldn't expect things from you if you didn't do things the way you do things,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest hurdle in general, just the pressure to do things. And it's a big resistance with songwriting as well. It's just like, if it's not perfect, what's the point? That's a big thing.
And how close have you been to quitting?
To quitting? Never intentionally. I've never intentionally quit. Like I've never had that thought like, no, I'm done with music. But I have accidentally just fell out of it a few times. A few years ago, just before I started finishing uni, that's when I started learning to be a PT, and I was working like night fills, so I was sleeping even less than I would normally. I just stopped playing guitar, not because I was like actively like, nah, it's time to quit, just because I didn't. And yeah, months went by and I just didn't play. That's probably the closest thing I've been to like just quitting. But fortunately, never had the thought that I want to quit. I think I've always known that I'd go back, even in periods where I didn't play a lot. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sick.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to, as artists and people that have made that decision to be an artist for a long time, is it does just become such a big part of our identity, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So even though I've had massive hurdles, I've never thought once, when things get hard, you sometimes go, oh fuck this. But I never go, well, I'm just going to sell all my guitars. Like that's a terrifying thought.
Yeah, it is. I mean, people do have that.
Yeah, people do it too.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the thought though. Like to me that is pretty weird. The only time I could think of that was if it was a crisis. If it was like, I have this guitar or I have food.
Yeah, exactly. And you see people that have like that. That is, I feel like that would be the point where you've given up on your dreams.
yeah, for sure.
So like putting your guitar on,
absolutely,
all of your amp, your guitar, everybody music gear on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah,
Because you're making that decision of, yeah, I'm done here.
absolutely, for sure. Yeah, that's
Have you seen people do that? Anyone close to you?
I do know of someone that has done that. I've forgotten his name, but um, my guitarist in Berlok, my other band, he was in another band, and I believe he was the guitarist of that band that just quit. Like he funded the whole band, like recording an EP. I think he bought the drum kit, and yeah, he just sold it all and left, pretty much.
Crazy, hey?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
That's the only time I can think of though that someone I know personally has done it. But I
Mm.
know people do it.
Do you feel a fear of like that ever coming on as you get older?
Not for me personally. I kind of feel like I'll always play. Um, Maybe because I've never hit it big, so to speak. I've just kind of like cruised along my whole life. Like the first 5 years of playing, I didn't even think of playing in a band, really. I just
Yeah.
played because I liked playing. So I think I've always known that, like, even if I'd never do music for people, I've always enjoyed it anyway. So I just play if I feel like having a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fair. And so, like, have you just got the original band at the moment, or like, are you doing something else in it? Like, how are you making money at the moment?
East Capri's pretty much just self-funded.
Yep.
We pay for everything ourselves. We do sell merch as well, so like people buy that, but for the most part, it is just out-of-pocket expenses.
Yeah. So what are you doing? What's your job at the moment?
I work at a hi-fi store.
Oh, you're at Todd's.
Yeah, I'm at Todd's.
Yeah,
Todd's
that's
Hi-Fi.
right. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, so like,
Yeah.
depending on the day, depends on what I do. Sometimes it's just regular retail.
Yep.
I'd say that's most of what I do, but sometimes it's out on other people's houses, fitting off like home theaters and like in ceiling speakers, outdoor speakers, that sort of thing.
Do you feel like because you're there, you are more like, even though it's hi-fi systems, right? But you're not selling, you're not doing the PT stuff anymore. Do you feel like you're more aligned when you're at work with music?
Sometimes it is really good. I'm fortunate enough where there is periods of time where there's nothing going on at the store. And I can sort of just think about other stuff. Like I can think about what East Capri want to do. And it also gives me an opportunity to like demo our songs on every speaker. Yeah, like every speaker you can imagine.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes our songs sound great on the Yamaha, and then I'll put it on like a monitor audio set of speakers, and it'll be like, wow, this song sucks. It gives me just way more reference points than I would normally get.
Yeah.
Which is really handy. But I do feel like still that it gets in the way of what I want to do more than it aligns with what I want to do.
Yeah.
Not as much as PTing was, because I was getting up at like 4 a.m., sometimes even earlier, just to get to work at time. And if I had a gig the night before, that just meant like I wasn't sleeping that night.
Yeah.
And whenever there was free time, I was thinking of what to do next as well. Because it was my own business, I was always thinking about that business.
Yeah.
And even when I wasn't at work, I was thinking about my business, replying to messages for my clients and stuff. And even when I set deadlines for myself, like not replying to messages after 6 p.m. and stuff like that, I'd almost feel guilty, even though I've set that barrier for myself. And I also was still just thinking of it, even though I wasn't doing it. So quitting that was good. Being at a hi-fi store aligns more, but it's still too distant from what I want to do.
Something that I was thinking about over the last 24 hours is it's not so much the time, but it's the focus is a really big struggle, because you might have a job where, like at the moment, my role, I'm lucky where the actual time, face-to-face time that I have to be in a location, not super high.
Yeah.
Probably like 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Which in a week, that's not much. And on paper, I was like, man, that's awesome. Like, that's so good. That's incredible. That's going to give me so much time to do music. But even though it's 20 hours of that, like I was up till 10 p.m. sorting problems out last night for
Yeah.
that business. So even though there's only 20 hours of FaceTime, my actual focus is it takes up a lot. It takes up like when I'm thinking about it, like yeah, it's just so easy to because it's a job where I'm in a managerial role where I'm in charge of people.
Yeah.
So it had my focus right up until I hit record on that, and it's probably gonna have my focus as soon as I hit the turn record off.
Yeah.
And I've only started to realize that that can be really taxing.
Yeah.
Is focus. Are you in a role at the moment where you like? I guess your focus probably does get to end when you leave work.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll think about
Yeah.
like tiny things, but that was the main reason I decided to not do my own business anymore.
Yeah, because PT would have done that.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
100% the main reason. And like, even though I'm spending more time at work, yeah, as soon as I'm out, that's cut off pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm like not thinking about work anymore. I can think on the next thing straight away. And it means that like, even though I've got less time to work on music, that's better time for sure.
So as a musician, as again, if a younger musician was coming to you and they were like, I don't have a job, what should I do? What would you tell them?
I'd tell them, oh, that's a hard question. That's a really hard question because I don't even know what I want to do really.
Yeah.
Like I do know, but I don't really have a fail safe.
Yeah.
I don't have like, oh, like I'm 90 years old and now I need money. Like 90s, I guess too old, but like I'm 40 years old. I don't have money. Band hasn't popped off. I don't have like that thing that I would be grounded to, that I could fall back on, I don't think. So like, I guess if his goal was to be like a musician, the same as mine, so I guess it would be just try really focus on what your goal actually is. Because I think when you're in a position where you do have to think about other stuff a lot, your goal can sort of shift too much. Like I know when I was in the heat, like at the peak of my PT business, I almost wasn't thinking of music anymore. It was just like, what's the next step for PT? Like, okay, these are my goals as a PT. And then like every action I was doing was almost in benefit of the PT. And I'd forgotten for a little bit that I even wanted to do music. And if it wasn't for East Capri, I might even still be a PT, to be honest. But like when Andy approached me at the gym, I'd say that was like a big thing for me because I was like, oh yeah, I love doing music. Like,
Yeah. What am I doing in the gym?
yeah, like what am I doing here? And it's like I was spending so much time just doing not music.
Yeah.
So if the goal is to do music, then keep that at the forefront and do your job that will benefit that, not that will take over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sick. So yeah, it's one of those things. You kind of got a couple options, right? You've got try and work out a career as a musician and get paid. Have you done that? Have you done something where your main source of income is music?
For a little bit, I was doing like cover gigs and stuff.
Yep.
As my main source.
Yeah.
During uni. So I've been there. It
Yeah.
wasn't for very long. It's like a year, but yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So 3 options I feel is either be a cover artist or be a teacher or work as a music. Well, it's teacher still work. Maybe get a uni job or something like that. So you either teach or you teach or you play music on someone else's time.
Yeah.
Number 2 is you just get a random job that starts and stops when the hours are there.
Yeah.
Probably the least paying of the 3.
Yeah.
And then option 3 would be start a business doing something.
Yeah.
Whether it be running your own teaching studio or becoming a PT if you've got a strong passion for that as well.
Yeah.
Out of those 3, I know you're in option number 2, but out of those 3, what would you have an opinion on what's better?
I mean, personally, number 2 would work well for me. I actively didn't become a teacher. Not because I hate teachers or anything, but because while I was a PT, I actually thought of it. I was like, why am I not just doing music instead?
Yeah.
But when I had that click, it was like, no, I want to be in a band. I want to be in a successful band. I was like, and I kind of realized with the PT stuff, it was like all my goals were shifting to benefit the being a PT, basically being a personal trainer, not even that wasn't even benefiting my gym, like my gym habits. It was only benefiting me as a PT. And I think being a music tutor would put me in the same position where it's not actually supporting me as a musician so much, but more supporting me as a music teacher. And because those are so close to each other, it's not as focused. It's will blur between the lines a bit. There's obviously still a lot of benefit from being a music tutor, like just teaching other people things you know really solidifies everything you know. So there is a lot of benefit to it still, and maybe just having the guitar on you all the time makes you play a bit more as well. But for me, I know that I tend to go too hard on the things that I start doing, and I would put too much effort into the music teaching, if that makes sense, and not enough into the band again.
Yeah. So running a business for you, you just get too obsessed with it. You kind of need to have the boundaries in place.
Yeah. And having a job where I've got a manager, it means that I don't have to think of that. That's like, my job is to do my job, and then once I leave, I'm doing my thing. Yeah.
I love that, because that's your business.
Yeah.
Instead of having split focus.
For sure.
Yeah. Cool.
Obviously, it works different for so many people. Most of the successful musicians I know were music teachers or are music teachers.
Yeah. I didn't do the teacher route. I did the cover artist route. I did that for 2 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just made me, I was doing a lot. I was playing, like, I'd do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, do gigs. And yeah, it made me not, I would finish the set.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I don't want to listen to music for another week.
Yeah, for sure. That's another.
Do you have
thing.
that?
Yeah, I felt, because I went to uni.
Yeah.
You went to GMC as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to uni.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I didn't really listen to music during uni. Like, I did for the first year, but like, as I got more burned out, I guess, I was like, I just stopped listening to music. It was nothing like, if I was listening to something, it was like a podcast, or like just me pretending to listen to something.
Yeah.
Like, just to shut off the noise almost. Like,
Yeah.
It became taxing. I didn't want to play music anymore because I was already playing music all the time.
Yeah. I think it was good. There's like, I feel like that it's there's a tipping point somewhere where it's really, really good because it's leveling you up to a degree, and playing cover shows and that kind of thing. You're just subconsciously even just downloading how good songs work. Like, you're just putting that into your brain.
Yeah.
But then it does get to a point, and maybe it was more so the environment. I think maybe if I was doing a cover artist thing with musicians that were like, because I was doing it solo, so I was just playing to drunk people
For sure.
all night by myself. The environment wasn't like, I just couldn't see growth. That was a big, that's bang on the thing that I think makes that I'm super purpose and passion driven with when I'm working. And I was in a thing where it's like, oh, cool, I'm getting paid $150 an hour now, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like, how do I grow from here? And I was like, well, I don't really. Like, I can just play better cover shows.
Yeah.
But then it's like, do I want to be 40 and doing cover gigs? No. So that's what made me like jump ship on that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, no, I want to be doing something that I'm proud of. Now I'm in something where it's like, my biggest concern now is it's something that I'm good at, but again, it's just the focus and the being distracted when I'm with my partner or when I'm here. A lot of the time I'm distracted.
For sure.
And it's really hard to get that just quality time.
Absolutely. I think it is possible to develop the discipline to do all these different avenues at once.
Yeah.
But where I was when I decided that I wanted to quit being a PT, the level I was at that point, it was just easier for me to start job that doesn't have anything to do with it, that I can just cut off as soon as I leave, focus on this thing. Honestly, like, if I started to do something like a cover gig or something, like, every now and then, I think I could manage that as well now. But I know that if I decided to do cover gigs, that's my main source off the gate, I would just be doing nothing but cover gigs, and I'd be looking at how to make those cover gigs better and stuff, and maybe finding a wall as well. Probably finding a wall as well, because honestly, most cover gigs musicians do.
Yeah.
That I've seen, they don't really develop their crafts that much.
Yeah.
Once they get like to a comfortable level.
That, I think that's the problem too, is it's quite repetitive, is, because every cover artist, there'd be, a library of about 200 songs, and most cover artists will know like 80% of that.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Wonderwall, you've got Brown Eyed Girl, you've
Yeah.
got you've got
You
these
got the
things.
songs.
You got the songs. You
Yeah.
absolutely got the songs. And once you've learnt all those, like what I found really fun was we had to do a couple of gigs recently with Patient Lounge. I think we were like, oh, let's do it. Let's learn some covers. We were going to film them and put them on YouTube. We did one. We did Welcome to the Jungle. It's on YouTube as well already. But we did a bunch. And they were really, I found it really fun because I hadn't done covers in a while, but we did cool songs. Like we did Welcome to the Jungle,
Yeah.
Love in an Elevator by Aerosmith. We were doing songs that were challenging for me
Yeah.
to learn on guitar.
For sure.
Because I learned all the lead parts and everything. And it was fun. And I literally, my guitar skills improved super exponentially, really, really quick.
Yeah.
Because every day I was practicing a Slash solo or an Aerosmith solo. And I was like, oh, these are fun. So I think the secret is you've really got to be challenging yourself as well.
Yeah, to keep it interesting, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd get so bored so quickly.
Are you doing anything to challenge yourself now?
I mean, constantly. Like, so, like I feel like a lot of people look at me as a lead guitarist. I've never considered myself a lead guitarist, like
That's funny.
ever once. Even though I played lead guitar in East Capri,
Yeah.
and I played lead guitar for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
most of the bands, I was the lead guitarist, but I've never considered myself a lead guitarist.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was because I've never learned solos, basically, besides when I was asked to by someone else. There was definitely like, I guess, of riffs that were like long enough and hard enough to be classed as solos, but I've never really considered them solos. Not in like, I guess, a more traditional sense. So this year I've been actively trying to learn more solos. Last month I learned like a Avenged Sevenfold solo, which I remember thinking like, oh, I don't know if I can even play that, but I'll give it a shot. And I could play it eventually. Like, obviously, just takes practice. Doing another solo this month, so I'm just trying to keep that habit of having a dedicated practice time where I am just doing nothing but guitar solos.
Yeah.
Because that was a skill that I was getting imposter syndrome with. I was like, I'm not a lead guitarist, I'm just a guy. So that's the main thing in terms of just actually playing that I'm doing to sort of challenge myself.
Yeah.
The other thing is just putting myself in a bit more of a I wouldn't call myself the manager of the East Capri band at all by any stretch, but just being more proactive in general.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about that Word document a couple of times now, but that's something I'm like being really strict with. I'm working on that every time I get the chance, just so we've got like set plans and deadlines for almost everything we do. Like down to the smallest details, like uploading the new song to DistroKid and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is something that never really had the initiative to do before because it was challenging. But yeah, just something I want to do more, and been putting myself in that position to do more.
Yeah.
So those are the two big things I'd say that are like
just taking on challenge. And
for sure.
Yeah, I really like the thing you mentioned before about just making sure that you're building the right habits as well. I think everyone should be, I think we talk about in sales, we talk about a great morning routine. And I don't think it matters where you do this, but you just should be doing this every single day. In sales, it's chief to get up on time, right? Because if you're snoozing, you're setting yourself up you're already telling yourself you're undisciplined.
Yeah.
If you hit snooze, you're already telling yourself promises to yourself don't matter first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Get up on time, get up on the time that you choose. Don't put that off. Reading, which is just educating, right? And I think in a musician context, it's like, are you reading or are you learning something? Maybe you're playing. Exercise, super important, obviously. Affirmations, and then a time management. But the affirmations is affirmation something you do at all?
No, but because I've read a few things to do with affirmations, and I've even listened to like ebooks and podcasts, and it's pretty well documented in general.
Yeah.
that you should be if you're not, even if you feel like you're mentally well.
Yeah.
I have heard a lot about it, but not something I really partake in at all.
Yeah.
Even if you don't believe it, I've heard that having affirmations for yourself will elevate that subconscious thoughts.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, would improve everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think naturally in the music industry, I think one of the biggest things that ruins our own ability is we musicians love negative self-talk a lot. Like we love to shit on ourselves, shit on other people, but we love to tell ourselves that we're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super, super common. And you often see a lot of people that do really well in the music industry
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that don't do that to themselves.
Yeah.
You notice that? Like bands, and a lot of the time, especially in Australia, the bands that up themselves or at least confident in their abilities are the ones that are seen as flogs sometimes.
Yeah.
But they're also the ones getting the shows and they're getting the
For sure.
momentum and they're getting that built because their self-talk and their mindset towards themselves is very, no, we're fucking awesome. We've got this. We're gonna be the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 For sure. I see that. I think yeah, especially in older bands, if someone did that, they'd be like, no, you're a loser. Like,
Yeah.
I think these days it's a bit better. Like I think it's a bit more accepting. Like if someone says that, the circle around it will be like, yeah, you are. You're gonna do great.
Yeah. It's kind of shifting a tad, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, because I think my assumption or my theory is that it's very much used to, like, you look at the American like culture was very much for that. Like,
Yeah.
you can be great, you can do anything, go after and get it is the American thing. Where Australians were very like when it came to creativity, it was very much like you're a flog if you think that you are good at something.
Yeah.
You kind of had to not try very hard to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. When are you gonna get a real job?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's just so much built into our culture. I think it's kind of similar in the UK as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting. But affirmations, they're one of those things that if you just have, whether it's visualization or an affirmation routine where you're just reminding yourself first thing in the morning, you fucking got this.
For sure.
Can go a really, really long way.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I mean, in a way, even like the stuff you got here, like the posters.
Yeah.
That's a sort of affirmation that.
Absolutely.
And like that's actually something I've recently looked into, like getting like A1 size posters, because for a lot of our single releases in the past, we've Jackson's actually made up these posters that look like movie posters.
Yeah.
To sort of accompany the single that's coming out.
Yeah, sick.
And I've actually looked up like the prices to get like A1 posters.
Yeah, sick.
So we can just have it on the wall at home. That way, every time we walk into the lounge room, it's like, yeah, we're fucking sick.
Yeah, that's right. We're doing that thing.
Yeah, we're cool as hell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's important to do that. And I think it does. It's in our culture, obviously, because we have that like initial like, should I be self gracious with that, and should I be putting a photo of myself on the wall? But it's like it's a bit of it's a hack to success. Really.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Because you are programming your brain for success. You're reminding yourself that is possible.
Absolutely.
Because the other option, when you look at the counter, the other option is your brain's going to tell you you're shit and you don't have a chance anyway.
For sure.
So you may as well try and fight that.
Absolutely.
Because your brain.
If that's all you've got.
Yeah.
To think about yourself.
Your brain. You may as well fill your brain with positive thoughts because it's going to try and fill it with negative. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think something that we do like a fair bit is like listen to some of our older demos and like even newer stuff that we haven't made. Something I do with my own stuff even is like I'll listen to stuff that I never released but I am proud of.
Yeah.
I'll be like, you know what, that's kind of sick. Like I actually do have something going on here. And yeah, I guess in a way that's an affirmation and I wasn't even thinking of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just reminding yourself that you're capable.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that actually really ties in with one of the other points you made for your like sales, your winning strategy for sales, like having that check mark that you can tick off when you wake up in the morning. And this is a big part of why I put everything into a calendar, into a list pretty much, is because every time I can tick off something, even if it's a guaranteed win, like do my dishes after I eat my dinner, that's just something I'm ticking off. And when you've got that success, like snowball rolling, it's so much easier to just keep on getting
absolutely
wins, for sure.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of that morning is sales is so like you got to go out there and you got to make. You would have seen this as a PT. You've got to get your clients right every single day. The business that I work in, you've got to generate sales every day. If you had a great day yesterday, it doesn't fucking matter because today. Like it's such a short cycle that if you don't make sales today, you're not making much money today.
For sure.
So every single day you've got to have that pressure on you.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that you optimize that is by making sure that every day you're doing things that are going to prime your day for success.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting up, educating, exercise, tick, 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 tick. I did all of those things that are going to make sure that my day's good. The probability that I'll also do that with my music and the shit that I'm really passionate about and making sure that East Capri have wins today, it's like easy.
Yeah.
Because I've already stacked so many wins today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've done the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. And with music as well, because it's so up for interpretation, something that might be considered a win on a good day, you might not even consider it a win if you're following it after a bunch of losses, essentially.
Exactly,
Like if you didn't get up on time and you were late to work and you didn't make any sales or whatever, if you go home, write a banger because you're in a bad mindset, you probably couldn't have written that banger in the first place. But if it was a banger, you'd probably listen to it and be like, I've lost again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe you made a post and it got awesome amount of views, but some dude's on it like, you're an ugly cunt. You're going to see it and be like, oh no, my day just got worse.
Oh man. But if you're on the win streak, you'll be like, oh,
bro, I got all these views. Fuck you.
yeah, literally.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's so funny how mindset is such a huge part of music. I don't think musicians talk about mindset enough.
Not enough, no. I think, and we're more conscious of it now more than ever. And it's, in my opinion, still not enough. Mental illness in general, just mental anything in general.
Yeah.
Not enough discussion about it.
Exactly. We need to, like, the biggest thing that musicians can be doing is helping each other with that, because it's the biggest roadblock to creativity. I loved what you said before about like you, when you were talking about not having space to get thoughts out. I think that's incredible, because I think that's exactly it, is like, you need to make sure you've got the time. And it really clicked for me in terms of that my focus is so taken up. When I go to sit down for creative time, I find it so much harder unless I'm at the cabin. When I try to sit down at home, I just can't. Like, I'm not good at sitting down and doing creative time at home.
For sure.
Because it's just, my brain's just shoved full of all of this stuff.
Yeah. I actually found that exact emotion. Not just for like writing songs, but like even doing stuff that I wanted to do that I knew I loved, like playing a video game. There was a period where I couldn't even play a video game because it was like, I'm too distracted. There's too much shit going on. And it wasn't until I got all these disciplines, like I built them up a bit more, and I actually like scheduled most of the things I was doing. I would schedule a time to play video games for a couple hours, and I was actually finally able to play it again because my mind was a bit clearer going into it. I had scheduled the time, so I kind of worked around it as well. Like all the stuff I needed to do, I knew was done, and I was able to just actually do that instead of just worry about anything really.
Yeah.
And even with reading books, I could only read books in my car for a while if I did want to read a book at all.
So you get the day just gets taken up by all this stupid little shit.
For sure.
If you're, which I'm hoping that that's not you anymore.
Not. Well, I mean, like it's what I'm working to achieve.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely in a way better place than it was 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
It's definitely not perfect by any means, but like it's so much better.
Yeah.
Like if I have 3 hours blocked out and only an hour and a half was productive, that's a huge win for me.
Yeah.
And seeing that as a win as well was its own hurdle, I think. Whereas before it could have been like, I've done nothing for an hour and a half. Oh my God, I'm a failure. I'm going to give up and do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, bro.
Yeah, man.
Sick. Well, I think that was for like 2 hours, which is awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Flew by. Yeah, where can people, obviously East Capri, where can people find you?
So my Instagram's just Jamal Capri.
Yep.
Like East Capri, but with Jamal in front. Got East Capri as well. That's our band. You can find Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, pretty much every platform you can imagine. And for now, that's pretty much it for me. Yeah,
I love it. I also I've heard something in a different podcast. I'm just going to rip it straight off. Leave a random question for the next guest about something to do with the music industry.
Okay. Why do you think your music matters?
I love it. Cool. You're going to start a trend. I love it. Cool. Thanks, brother.
No worries, man.
Sick.